want to introduce our next talk. We're going to dive into it now. This is when the have really, really, truly begins. And it begins with one of my favorite people in the world. Her name is Robyn Firtel. On the journey into the truth, when I went to some of the rehab places, and I learned about the chair work, and I learned about the theories of developmental psychology that I've shared earlier. I learned about family systems. I said, how can I find someone who does this? It's not somewhere you have to check in as an addict and stay there for 6 weeks. And the person I found is going to be your next speaker. Not only do I see her all the time, not only do Ingrid and I go and see her professionally, but we've probably referred countless people. She's also taught one of the heaviest society and or game intensives we've ever done. She's MFT, so she does family therapy. She's trained under Pia Mellody, who really is the originator. A lot of these incredible ideas. Is one of the best therapists, counselors, family therapists on the West Coast. Robyn Firtel. Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Oh wow! Thank you, Neil. So good to see you all, and I'm always honored to speak in front of a room of people that are saying to themselves, you know what, there's something going on in my life that I am blocked. I'm blocked from love. I'm blocked in my ability to give love and receive love, and there might be something going on in my life that I'm not even conscious of as to why I am the way I am. So before I get started with what I'm going to talk to you about, and I do not expect you to see this, I'm just still stuck in the 80s, so I haven't learned PowerPoint yet, but I'm sure my 15-year-old daughter will put this all in PowerPoint. I want to just let you know that none of the work I do is about changing you and fixing you. It's really, really about being you. And it's not about being better than you are or less than you are. It's just about finding out who you are inside, who you were meant to be, and be able to fully express that so that you can give and receive love. So that's what I want to start with. So when I kind of walk you through some of the core issues, if you find yourself feeling like guilty or shameful, just watch that in yourself and try and ask yourself where it's coming from. Or if something I say you're getting angry with, that's okay too. And one of the comments I heard before I got up here were that some people were experiencing themselves as not good enough when they were doing the work. So I'm kind of going to talk to you about where all of this comes from, right? So where I'm going to start before we go into the deep core issues, I'm going to first talk to you about symptoms that we're having in ourselves, with our partners, within our family, within our society, within our community, within our world. And these symptoms are getting worse, in my opinion, just because we are not treating the root cause. And all of you know that if you keep getting an infection over and over again, and you get medicine for that infection, if you don't know what's causing the infection, eventually the medicine will stop working, right? So I'm going to kind of talk to you about the symptoms that I see people coming in with. And before I get started, I will say a little bit about myself. All the work I'm talking about today, I have gone through myself. I was born in Johannesburg, South Africa, before apartheid was abolished. So I went through a lot of war trauma. And then coming here as an illegal immigrant, I went through a lot of physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, and a lot of addictions early on in my life. And when I got sober in 1996, I was having a lot of the symptoms I'm going to talk about, and I was in all kinds of different therapies, 12 steps and therapies, and I was seeing healers and just doing anything I could to feel like a human being. And honestly, it wasn't until I got to the core issues that you guys are going to work on today that I was able to actually feel like I could function as a human being without post-traumatic stress all the time that I didn't even know I had. And my life has been completely transformed. It has transformed in ways I can't even tell you since. I have 2 daughters. I'm happily married, and every day I wake up and say, who can I help today? Whereas, when I was 26, 47 now, it was every day I woke up and said, how can I not live today, or how can I get back at this person? So it's been a huge transformation. So none of the work that I do is me preaching. It's just my experience, what I've seen with thousands of people, and where these core symptoms come from. So The ones that I see mostly within myself, within the community, are huge resentment problems. There's a lot of anger going on, rage, fighting, and then I want you to think about this also. If you say that you have no anger, you don't feel anger, that's actually an anger issue, because when you become a mature adult, anger is a natural human emotion that will give you the power to set a boundary with someone, right? So the rage is where it becomes problematic, or the lack of anger is where you won't be able to speak up for yourself and people are just going to take advantage of you and then you feel like a victim. Okay, so when I say anger issues, I'm not just talking about anger out there. I'm talking about lack of anger. I've worked with many people that can't get angry. The second symptom is the control issues, right? Is that you're trying to, or people are trying to, you, me, everyone, trying to control things that you can't change. Trying to have control over people, or not feeling like you have enough control. So again, that's another symptom. And again, and I don't do symptom treating. I'm just kind of letting you know what the symptoms are. So as I speak, try and see if you see these in yourself. Another big one is dishonesty. So someone says, how are you? Your partner says, how are you? And you say, fine, and you're not. Or you're lying, overtly or covertly. So you have a problem being honest about who you are. Especially if you're trying to please somebody, you're having a hard time being honest. Another one is my relational esteem issues. I know you can't see this, but it's just helping me. Relational esteem issues is I leave the house in the morning and my daughter says, Mom, you're a great mom, and I feel great about myself, and then I'm driving and someone flips me off and now I feel horrible about myself. Then I go to work and a client doesn't like something I said. Now I don't feel good about myself. Then I get on the phone and my friend's really nice to me. Now I feel good about myself. So the symptom is that my self-worth depends on you, or how much money I have, or how I look, or how I'm perceived by others. And I see some of you nodding your heads, so you get this, right? So I am dependent on people, places, and things for how I feel inside. And that's a really scary place to be right now. If you are depending on other people to make you feel good, it's not coming from within you. And if I'm talking too fast, someone go like this. Ryan, will you let me know, because I talk fast. Okay. Another huge symptom we know addiction issues are rampant. Pill addiction, work addiction, sex addiction, love addiction, alcohol addiction, we are so addicted to everything to help us escape reality, which is really escaping who we are and how we are with other people. We cannot stay in reality. So it's like the way I'm going to survive this life is I'm going to obsess on something to make me feel better, which is actually taking my life. So that's addiction issues. Depression. I'm not discounting real chemical depression, because I know some of you, and some depression is chemical. Bipolar disorder, it can be chemical. But from what I see, I would say maybe 70% of people, 30% have real chemical depression. They need medication. But 70%, I would say, about the people I see that have been diagnosed with bipolar depression, ADHD, anxiety, all that stuff, a lot of it is trauma from their childhood that they're expressing in their everyday life. And so, and the therapy that they've gone to, they don't know what to do. It's like give them a pill or deep breathing, and that's not going to help these symptoms, right? Because there's a root to them. The other huge symptom is intimacy issues. Can you hear me? Am I falling through this? Okay, intimacy issues are, come on, relationship issues. That's everywhere. It's either with friends or your partner or your spouse or your kids or your boss, or it's just we're unrelational. We are stuck in these young ages consciously. We can't seem to get along. And again, that's a symptom. We want to focus on the symptom, the symptom, the symptom. And those are symptoms of something else, which I'll talk about in a second. Another big, huge symptom is in a relationship, whether it's with your child, your partner, spouse, whatever, intensity issues. So either you feel like you're out of control in that relationship and it's chaotic and fighting and this all the time, or, which I saw the 2 love avoidance, the relationship has become totally dead. So there's no energy in it, right? So we go from chaotic to dead. And you can, in the same relationship, go between both, or within yourself. You feel like chaotic, out of control, and then I'm nothing, I have nothing, right? So it's like between these 2 extremes. So these are unmanageable symptoms. These are what we see in therapy normally presenting, right? And what we want to do is get in there and fix the symptoms. And I was in symptom-based therapy for many years, and I was still the teenage Robyn with this person, the wounded child, which I'll get into more, Robyn with this person, and I rarely was able to have a mature relationship with anybody due to my relational trauma. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So are you guys with me? You guys with me? Okay. So where are all these things coming from? Where are all these symptoms coming from? Like, what are we doing here? Like, how did this all go wrong? Why can't we just not need all this, right, in order to be healthy and happy and peaceful? And that's a very complex question, and hopefully I won't make it too complicated when I explain it. You guys had a lecture earlier on the brain development, right? Did you have a little bit? Okay. So I'm sure you know, whether you had psychology or not, as a child 0 through 18, there are certain stages of development that one needs to go through to get to the next stage. If you've had a traumatic experience, and I'm going to talk about what trauma is, because a lot of people had trauma, but it wasn't like mine. Mine is very a covert trauma, right? You've had trauma, and because of that trauma, your maturity level stays stuck at that age. That's the best way I can explain it. So the way trauma is described in the work that I do is anything 0 through 18 that happened to you that was less than nurturing, right? And you could just say, because I'm a parent, I know I've traumatized my kid just because I'm a human being. So that's most people. And that's why most people need something. And that's why we're in this kind of mess with relationships. So, but trauma affects people in different ways. So I'm going to talk about a trauma first that is totally overlooked. And that one is the trauma of neglect. And the reason, and this doesn't mean, this could have been that you didn't get clothes, you didn't get food, you didn't get shelter. That could be a neglect trauma for sure. That's part of neglect. But that's how most people think about neglect, right? So in this, neglect is something that actually didn't happen. You can't name something that didn't happen. Okay, so if you had, and I'm not faulting you, you might be a parent that works a lot, that's fine. We're not blaming our parents or blaming you, it's just this is how human beings get wounded, right? So if you had, like, say, your dad was working all the time, and he provided for the family, and he meant well. You know, I had immigrant survivor parents, so they were out, you know, trying to get stuff on the table all the time. But you weren't seen as a person. They didn't really get to know you as an individual and attend to those needs and wants within you. You're going to grow up feeling totally lost as an adult. Maybe not with everybody, but there's going to be a part of you that feels like, I don't matter, I'm invisible, nothing I say means anything. It's this like disempowered state, okay? Now that, so that's one thing, so neglect, okay? And I'm not going to get into all of the traumas today, but that one is one that really causes problems for people because they pick people that neglect them. We only know unconsciously what we had. So you're going to pick someone that neglects you, and it's going to remind you that you're not good enough again. You're going to chase the back walking away, and that person who probably was overprotected is going to push you away. Okay, so this could be your boss that you don't feel good enough for, and you're constantly overworking. This could be your brother that you're trying to please. It could be anybody that you're feeling not good enough with. Okay, if you're not feeling good enough, it's not coming from here and now, because there's nothing wrong with you. You have worth from within you. So there's something going on from back 0 through 18. So the way I'm going to describe it to you for a second, so because I know a lot of people, You guys learn through examples, concrete examples. So my husband comes home and he says, hey, Robyn, I'm going surfing, which he does a lot, after work. And I start thinking he doesn't love me. He doesn't love me. I'm nothing to him. I'm invisible. Okay? Is that coming from that moment? Maybe. But is it really? Okay? Even if he didn't love me and I was invisible to him, I still have worth. My worth didn't go down because he didn't want to spend time with me. Okay? What's happening? Neglect. My brain doesn't know any different between the right now and back then. So right now, he's become my father, who was depressed, this is true, every single day when we came here because he didn't have a job and we were illegal, and he'd stare at the ceiling, okay? I didn't know that was my reaction. So what's going to happen? My core symptom of self-worth goes down. So that's the first one, self-worth. You guys are going to talk about the core issues. And I'm not feeling good enough. And he goes surfing, and the whole time I'm obsessing because he's not home yet. Whose reality am I in? Not living my own life. He comes home, and I'm dancing around the house trying to get everything perfect for him so he loves me again. I'm lost. I'm living someone else's life. I'm not even my own reality. So that's one of the first core issues that Neil was referring to, is this lack of self-worth. Okay? Self-worth goes down because of the neglect. So in that moment, he becomes my father. It's not because of him being so powerful and having power over me. It's because I've put myself below him because of that neglect. But I'm not conscious at the time. Okay, so I'm going to give you another scenario. And some of you will relate to this because I've done both. My husband comes home and says, hey, Robyn, I'm going surfing. Same thing. But this time I think, what an asshole. I worked so hard today. Like, why isn't he making me dinner? Like rubbing my feet, right? What's going on there? Am I in the present? And what kind of love am I going to give to him when he gets home? Okay? If you were a scapegoat in your family of origin, which is that you were given too much power. Remember, the first one in self-worth was too little power. The second one is too much. So if you were a hero in your family, everybody counted on you. You had alcoholic parents. You were the one cleaning everything up. You were the one getting straight A's, the athlete. Or you were the badass. I was that too. Okay? All of a sudden, in that moment, I'm the badass, you know? And then he gets home, and I'm in his face. Woo, why didn't you go surfing, and why weren't you home, and da-da-da-da, I'm out of here. Or come home, and he goes, what's wrong? Nothing, right? Okay, so those two, self-worth, low self-worth, now I'm too high. Now, so I become a wounded child and then a teenager all in the same hour. That's not a life I want to live, right? He can say, Robyn, I'm going surfing, and I think, I would really like to see him, but awesome, he gets to surf today. I'm going to go hang out with the kids. I'm going to go walk on the beach, whatever it is. What you choose it. I didn't know this was happening. Okay, so you guys following me? Am I talking too fast? No? Okay. Core symptom of codependency, which is immaturity, emotional immaturity due to relational trauma. Okay, so your worth didn't change. If you have animals, if you have kids, you see inside of them, you see this soul and this beautiful spirit, and you don't love them any less or more depending on what they do or don't do. You have worth that's within you. And until you realize that, you're going to keep doing this stuff with people. You're going to be dancing and walking on eggshells and changing yourself for other people. Or making yourself better than other people and then perpetrating from a victim position. Which is, I'm mad at you. So yeah, I just recently had someone come in. Of course I had an affair. She was working all the time, didn't pay any attention to me. I deserved it, right? Okay, so he felt like a victim. He violated her boundaries, and he felt justified in it. Or I scream at you because you scream at me. So I feel like a victim, so I can do it back. It's all immaturity, right? How do you become mature? You've got to learn about self-worth. That's a core issue. So even in here today, as Neil and Ryan, they're walking you through all this amazing work, where was it that you had someone say something or do something that you started thinking, oh, I'm better than that, and you had this whole thing in your head? You're a teenager. Or I can't do this, I'm not important, or I'm a horrible person because I made a mistake, right? You're doing it, you're in it now. So you go from wounded child to teenager, and where are you? You're not here, you're back in your family of origin, your original trauma, and you don't even know it. I love all those new age books about being in the present. I'm like, really? People are not that's not being in the present. You're here, but you're there at the same time. So you need to heal that. That's why you guys are here, right? Second core symptom of emotional immaturity is boundary issues. Boundaries. So first one's self-worth, second one's boundaries. Boundary, and I see the nods because boundaries are huge. So if you were in a family that overprotected you, what do you think is going to happen? You're going to have no confidence. Okay, you're going to have no confidence, and you're going to feel like anybody that's trying to help you is smothering you, right? So you wall people off, and instead of letting love in, giving love, you've got a wall on you. Nope, I don't need help. Big wall. Now, if you come from family of origin like I did, where everyone was screaming and yelling everything all the time, which is no boundaries, then you won't know you will be violating people's boundaries without knowing it. You're vomiting stuff all the time on them, and you're offending them, but you don't think you are. So yelling, sarcasm, ridiculing, making fun of people, judging them, making them feel like they don't matter, all that, or doing it behind their back. My trainer always said that was her thing, use passive aggressive. Right? So as a child, you need protection. You need your parents to protect you. You are vulnerable and you need protection. Okay? But you also need parents that are going to let you go a little bit and help you have the confidence to leave. And it's very hard, I know, because I'm a parent, to have that balance. And so there's all kinds of boundaries in the core symptoms of codependency, like how to talk maturely, how to listen. I mean, I could spend 3 months with people just doing that, because it's like we don't even know how to talk to people anymore. We don't know how to listen. We don't know how to talk. Or if, simple thing like if you're standing in line and somebody's breathing down your ear and you move away from them and they move towards you, you have a right to keep moving. And if someone's doing that, back off, right? So there's physical boundaries, there's sexual boundaries, there's emotional boundaries. And another big one for people is if you walk into a room and you're feeling something that wasn't just yours, like I remember one day I walked into the grocery store. I was in a really peaceful place. I had just done my yoga class, and I walked into a grocery store and I felt all this anger. I'm like, what is this? And I realized in that moment, that's not mine. So give that anger back. There was a lot of angry people in that store, and I was just no boundaries. Because I'm empathetic, so I can feel things from people. I don't want to be feeling people's pain. I don't know about you guys, but I have enough stuff of my own. And I see it in couples work all the time. One person gets angry and the other one gets angry. It's like, what happened? That one calms down. So boundary issues. So we've got self-worth. That's a core issue. We've got boundaries, a retraining and boundaries. If you didn't have this growing up, and your parents didn't teach you this, there's no way you're going to know how to do this. I had to learn all this. I had to somebody help me to coach me to be a mature adult. How do I talk when I'm angry? How do I listen when I don't agree? How do I protect myself and not tell somebody too much and they're standing back, right? All that. Third core symptom of the symptoms. Okay, so let me just show you here. So if I have myself, depending on other people, on how I feel every day, right? So I'm going one up, one down. Remember what I said about I'm feeling like a teenager and then a child? The symptom of that is relational esteem issues. Does that make sense? So let me show it to you. My parents neglected me, so I don't feel good enough. Then in adult situations, someone says something or does something, now I'm not feeling good enough. And then the symptom of that, after the secondary symptom after that is now I'm getting my self-worth from other people. Got that? My parents didn't protect me enough in my childhood because I was neglected. So now I put myself in situations with people that have no boundaries and I get taken advantage of because I feel less than. Does that make sense? So now I'm having problems with enmeshing with people in my relationships or avoiding them altogether because I don't want them to get close. Do you guys see that? So that you can't see it, but you see the root of it is the childhood trauma. That's why it's like, why look at childhood? This is why, because you're living it now. Okay, third core symptom of relational trauma and these core issues is reality. Reality. Okay, so I have a 15-year-old, and when she was in 2nd grade, she said, "Mommy, I'm going to be a vegetarian today." And I said, "Okay, great." I picked her up from school. I said, "What do you mean you're going to be vegetarian?" She goes, "I'm only eating meat, chicken, and fish." I'm like, "Jaden, you're only going to," I was like, "That is not a vegetarian." I kept saying it. She kept going, "Mommy, I'm only eating meat, chicken, and fish." And it just, that control thing started, right? So I realized in that moment, she just needed me to hear her. Someday she will know that that's not vegetarian, right? I got to get out of that power struggle. So I said to her, I had this work in me, right? So I said, "Jaden, okay, you're vegetarian and you're only eating fish, chicken, and meat." And she goes, "Yes." And I go, "Okay, that's awesome." And I repeat it again, never heard it again, right? As children need to be heard, even if they're saying something that you think's crazy, they need a reflection of who they are by you listening to them. So if you had in your childhood a drunk father and your mother said, "Oh no, he's just tired today," what's happening to your sense of reality? You can't tell, is this real? Is this not real? Right? And then you meet somebody and I love when clients call me in the beginning and they're like, "I just met this person. He's the best thing or she's the best thing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, she's this and she's smart and she's this." And I'm like, "How long have you known them?" 2 weeks. "Have you met them?" "Nope, just texting." Really? You're in reality right now? You're about 5 years old. Your mommy left when you were really young, and now you're in fantasy with this person. Right? And then you say, "All women are like this." Well, you don't really know that person. Right? So in order to be in reality, you've got to know 2 things. The most important thing is you are a human being, and you are going to make mistakes every day. So if you start making up, because of your family of origin, that when you make mistakes, you're less than, you're in trouble. Because we all make mistakes. Right? So you're punished for your mistakes. What are you punishing yourself for when you're making mistakes as a human being? And then you cover them up. Instead of just saying, "I was wrong." It's not because you're in the present. It's because you're back then with your mom and dad and being upset that you're making mistakes. And so in order to know what you're really feeling and thinking and experiencing, you need to be still with yourself and really be present for yourself if you didn't have that in your childhood. I cannot believe how much attention this 15-year-old needs. It's like worse than when she was 2. It's like the drama at school and then this and then this, and I'm hearing it all, and I'm so grateful. She's reflecting it back to me. And then I got to let her go soon. Not yet. Right? So kids, teenagers, you needed your parents. You needed your parents to be present. And then if these people say, "Well, my dad left when I was 2, or someone passed away," it's not about blaming that person, but that trauma is there. That's a wound so whatever you had, assuming if you're gay, it's the same sex parent. If you're heterosexual, it's the opposite sex. So whatever my trauma is with my dad, I project onto romantic relationships. If I was gay, it would be my mother. Whatever relationship you have with the same-sex parent and you're heterosexual is what you're projecting out for men. So if you're a man and you're heterosexual, whatever relationship you had with your dad, then it comes out with your bosses and your friends. You're projecting all this stuff out that you haven't healed. Does that make sense? If you're gay, it's just the same sex. Okay? So that's, again, we've got self-worth, boundaries, and reality. So Again, if I'm trying to be perfect for you because I can't own my mistakes, I'm going to be dishonest. I want you to think something of me. And so I'm going to cover myself up. Do you see that's the symptom? Got that? Okay. I promise I'll have some questions and answers at the end because I know that you will have some questions. Another thing is spirituality issues. That doesn't necessarily mean religious. It just means, I love when people say, I don't believe in a higher power, but I absolutely need to have this relationship so badly, and I'll do anything for this person to make them love me. I'm like, that's your God. Or I don't believe in God, but this addiction is driving me every single day. I can't stop. Really? That's your God. So you either have one, right, that's owning you, or you become the God. So I need to control things that I can't change. I want to focus on controlling things. Again, that's all doable because the goal in this is to have self-worth, to have boundaries, and be able to own your own reality and being okay with someone else owning theirs. We don't have to all agree. Got it? Okay. How am I on time? I'm good? Okay. Fourth major issue in this. Core issue, symptom number 4 of emotional immaturity due to relational trauma. So if you think about inside, the self-worth, boundaries, reality, is if you grew up in a family where your needs were dismissed, right? So like you were just expected to be quiet and behave. Or you asked for something, and the opposite is everything you asked for, you got. Right? So everything you asked for, you got. You've got a sense of entitlement now. So you expect in your adult relationships that everything you ask for, you're going to get. And when it doesn't happen, you're mad. But if you didn't have your needs and wants met, you won't know how to ask for them in relationships. Every human being has needs and wants. So if you're in a relationship or a friendship, you're going to have needs. Right? You're going to have wants. And so the goal is to not be too dependent. If you didn't have parents there for you, then as an adult, you're going to be too dependent on people. Okay? If you had parents that were there for you all the time, and someone tries to help you, you're going to say, nope, not me. I don't need you. So we want to go from anti-dependent, I don't need you, to too dependent, and the goal is to be interdependent. How do you do that? What happens if you? Let me ask: if you're in that young child, I'm not good enough. Do you think you're going to be too needy? Or I don't need you? Too needy, right? If you are in that child, are you going to have a boundary? Someone says something to you, nope, no boundary. If you're too needy, you have no boundary and you're young, and then someone asks you what you think about that, you're going to tell them? No, because if they reject you, you're going to spin out because they're your higher power. Right? Same thing. Now you're an angry teenager. So your self-worth, too high or too low? Too high. Someone's trying to give you love. What's going on with your boundary? You're walled off. Right? In your reality, you're trying to be good and perfect. If you're a hero, you're trying to be good and perfect. If you're a scapegoat, you're just badass in your face. Right? All right? And then, if you're a hero, if you're a teenager, you're not going to need anything from anyone. I'll do it myself. I don't need help. The way people love you is by helping you. Sometimes you need help, and that people want to help you. That's why, you're here today. So that says a lot. It says a lot. Okay, so you see the 4. So self-worth, boundaries, reality, dependency. The last one, 5 core symptoms of emotional immaturity is a lack of moderation in all things, which has been my hard one. As you can tell, I'm a pretty intense person. Okay, so 0 through 5 is your most important time in human development. There's study after study shows that. You don't remember it, but it's the most important time for bonding. So if you see a 3-year-old at Ruth Chris, and they're in a high chair and they're not moving, and the waiter goes, wow, that's awesome. Look how good your kid is. What's happening? That child's supposed to be spontaneous and open. They're not supposed to be sitting there like a soldier. Their frontal cortex hasn't even developed yet. They're already learning. So I see them as adults. They have obsessive compulsive disorder, and they have to have a schedule. They can't let go. So see how early that starts? Right? So it's like you're so contained. You can't let go. You can't have fun because your inner child, you're supposed to have learned how to be spontaneous and open. Now, your children can be too spontaneous and open at about age 6. So I knew all this. I didn't take my daughter on a plane. I didn't take her to a restaurant because I didn't want to on her, right? 6 years old, she walked into Starbucks, singing on top of her lungs. And I said, Jaden, honey, people are drinking Starbucks. Like, come on, shh. She needed to be taught that. You have to have humility around people, right? See the moderation, but it's not shameful for who you are. Be quiet, right? Stop screaming. That's shaming, right? Getting down on their level and saying, sweetie, there's people around. You're teaching them humility. So the 5 core symptom in adult is that you've got no limits and you're free doing everything and you have low impulse control and you're just out of control doing everything you want. Or then the other extreme is that you're so tightly wound that you can't be free and you can't feel joy and you're just feeling like a soldier. You're feeling dead inside. Okay, so that's not coming from your natural self. You might be a little more introverted. You might be a little bit more quiet. Introversion is awesome. There's a lot of people have a lot of shame over just being introverted. There's all this pressure to be like, hi, how are you? If you're introverted, be introverted. However, if you can't be free in it at all, you've got some trauma down there, deep wounds around being spontaneous because you had to be a little soldier too early. Okay, so the 5 core symptoms of codependency, once you can have a sense of self-worth, which is partly why you're here doing this work, is to find a sense of self-worth from your inner being, not for how much money you're making or what you look like. When I meet somebody personally, I don't care about that. I see you. I'm from Africa. When I meet people out there, they've never seen a grocery store. And I have so much love immediately when I meet them because I can see them. I don't see a mask. I see right through them. Right? So your self-worth is who you are, and you're able to be who you are with people, even if you have weaknesses. You should have seen me ironing last night. The iron went over, and the iron board I am the most clumsy person. I fall all day. I'm good at this, but I'm not good at math. Right? So you don't take those weaknesses and make yourself less than. You own who you are. Right? So then we got boundaries. You learn how to have boundaries with people so that you cannot overwhelm them with your energy, but also contain yourself and protect yourself, like in martial arts. So you're not taking on everybody's stuff because of your wounds. These wounds are down here. Symptoms are out here. Healing's in here. Learn how to be human and make mistakes. This all seems so easy, right? There's a training behind each one of them. And then learn how to ask for help. Or learn how to do things on your own. Learn interdependence. Learn how to be mature. Learn how to give and receive love and have fun in the last one. Right? So do you see how moderate all of it is? Moderation is the key. So I don't know if I have time to go into love addiction. Do I? Do you guys want to hear about love addiction? Yes. And love avoidance? Okay. I love this subject. This is my thing. So you guys have had this education now. And so I want to talk to you about when the wounded child, remember the wounded child feels less than, has no boundaries, is needy, and feels less than and needs rescuing, right? That's the wounded child. Who do you think the wounded child's going to pick a relationship with? Unconsciously. Because at first they're going to be like, but he likes Chinese food, or she likes Japanese food or whatever. It's not, and they're really cute. It's not all that stuff. Who's the wounded child going to pick to be in a relationship with most likely?
Love avoidant?
Yes, a hero. Okay, so Alexa, And it's intense. In the very beginning, it's intense. You know the person inside and out. They're your soulmate. You have all this stuff in common. You finish each other's sentence. The sex is amazing. You've never been with anybody like this in your life. You're in love, blah, blah, blah. The whole thing, and you know them 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Okay? And it's a mess. Because what's happening is your wounded child needs that hero, so you project all the stuff that you didn't have from the opposite sex parent and expect that from the partner. And the partner needs that wounded child in order to feel like they're rescuing that person. The hero needs someone to rescue. So the damsel in distress or the man in distress is good for the hero, right? So the more the love addict becomes needy, which is the wounded child, because now eventually you want to go do something else. This could be a man or a woman. I'm just, for this example, using the woman as the love act. I've seen both in tons of situations. And then the hero is with the wounded child, and then the hero starts getting burnt out and tired of always being there for this person. They start getting a life. They start, like, not even a life. They just go to a movie. And all of a sudden, the wounded child, not in the present, dad's leaving, I'm not going to be okay without this person. Come home. Oh, I'm going to die without you, right? And they're going, oh, I'm drained, just like my mother, who enmeshed with me, who I still talk to a couple times a week, that needs me so badly, is there, right? And then these two go on, and then something happens, and there's a huge fight, and then there's a breakup, and then the hero seduces the wounded child back, and they go round in a circle. I don't know if I explained it the right way, but some of you are nodding your head. So you can go, then you say, she was way too needy and she was bipolar, or he was narcissistic. That's my favorite one. So nothing's wrong. I don't need to take responsibility for any of that because that's all them. I'm just going to go on Bumble or Match and find someone else. And then a year later, it's the same thing again. But they were so different. Okay, well, you got to heal the core issues, you got to heal the trauma, or you're going to you only know what you had growing up, so you're just going to keep picking the same person. But just, they look different, they have different jobs, right? So you got to, now, can two people that are already together in a commitment stay together if one's a love addict and one's a love avoidant? Yes, if the love addict does the work. That's probably surprising you. Okay? If the love addict does the work, it's better if both people do the work. But if I was going to choose one of them, it would be the love addict. Because if the love avoidant just does the work and he becomes more relational and he's not the hero anymore, the love addict's going to drive him or her crazy. Right? There is a possibility if you recover from love addiction, the other person will be able to not be as love avoidant just by you doing the work. I know that sucks, but it's true. Who's more likely to come in for therapy? Yes. Why? Yep. There's low self-worth and pain point is much more motivating than someone that says nothing's wrong with me. It's their problem. Can't do any of this work, though, if there's active addiction going on. That you got to sober up first. Process addictions are different, like sex addiction, eating disorders, gambling. Not so much with gambling, but you don't have to be told, because you can't really get sober from food, right? You can't just not eat. You can't just not have sex. Well, I guess you can when you're with me. You know, I tell you don't have sex for 6 months. But real addictions, like ones that you have to stop all the way, drugs, alcohol, pills, booze, those first, before you do the core issue work, you need to stop the addictions. You got to get sober. You got to go 12-step, whatever it is. Okay? So, 2, love avoidance in a relationship. So both of them are heroes. Both of them have life outside of the relationship. They're really involved with work and friends and barbecues and kids and all this stuff. That can survive as roommates with very little passion between them, and that can go on for years. I had 2 love avoidants come in. They'd been married 30 years, and they're totally dead in the chair, right? It's like, how's everything? Good? Yeah. Good? Yeah. There's no energy. A love addict and a love addict, So I separate those two. Oh, two love addicts together, they're both in fantasy. They both project the abandoned parent on the other person, and they don't want either person to have a life outside of them. Two love addicts together. Oof, I've done that too, back when I was a love addict. Very chaotic relationship. Okay, so the whole point is, how do we get out of this mess? You've got to heal, which you're going to be doing, I think, a lot of this weekend, is to heal the shame inside of you that makes you not feel good enough, and to heal the anger that's keeping you separated from people, the stories that you're making up in your mind about how much you might not be saying I'm better than them, but if I'm driving, for example, because I do this in the car, and I think that idiot's driving too slow even though they're going the speed limit, right? That's me trying to control the person in front of me, and I'm criticizing and judging them. So we do that all the time with one another. So heal the anger, heal the shame, and get to the 5 core symptoms. Stop treating this, the 5 core issues. Stop treating symptoms. Symptoms, self-worth, boundaries, reality, dependency, moderation. Right? All right. Okay, am I good?
You're good.
All right, well, thank you. So, guys, you guys have asked amazing questions.